Hi, welcome to our daily encounter. Today we read Psalm 73, which is a psalm by Asaph. And it talks about a time when Asaph was struggling with something. In verse 2 it says, "But as for me, my feet came close to stumbling, my steps had almost slipped." Asaph was struggling with the fact that the wicked, the evil, the arrogant people, they were flourishing. They were prospering. They had abundance. When he would have thought that God would render judgment and justice against these people, it seems the opposite was happening. And he had a hard time with that. He had a hard time processing that. But somewhere along the way, he has a change of perspective. In verse 17, he says, "Until I came into the sanctuary of God." He says, "Then I perceived their end. Surely you set them in slippery places." And he goes on. He says, ultimately, they will get what they have coming to them. It's just a matter of time. And so he has this change of perspective. And then we see another change of perspective continuing on when you read, starting in verse 21. He says, "When my heart was embittered and I was pierced within, then I was senseless and ignorant. I was like a beast before you." In other words, now he's come to his senses. He realizes at that time when his heart was embittered and he was pierced within, it was all based upon his ignorance. It was based upon a false understanding or a wrong understanding of things. But in verse 23 he says, "Nevertheless, I am continually with you. You have taken hold of my right hand. With your counsel you will guide me, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And besides you I desire nothing on earth. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." And then he says in verse 28, "But as for me, the nearness of God is my good. I have made the Lord God my refuge, that I may tell of all your works." Here we have even a greater shift in perspective by Asaph as he considered the preciousness of the relationship that he had with God. This is something that the wicked, the evil, the arrogant don't have. Sure, they might have physical possessions, they might have riches and abundance, but that is nothing compared to what those who serve the Lord have. We have God Himself. Matter of fact, as Asaph thought about this, he said, "Whom have I in heaven but you? And besides you, I desire nothing on earth." He said, as long as I have the Lord, and my relationship with the Lord is greater than anything here on earth. He had exalted God up to the place where He ought to be. He said, "There is no one in heaven besides you." And that led him to the thought of, you know what? Because of that, I don't desire anything but you. And then he goes on to say, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forevermore." Even my very heart may fail. My flesh may waste away. But you know what? My life is not about my heart or my flesh. And besides all that, God is the strength of my heart. And He is my portion forever. To say that the Lord is His portion just means that God was all that He needed to be satisfied. You think about your portion of food. Maybe when you were a kid, your mother or your father or someone who's watching over you gave you your portion of food for the evening or for the day or for that meal. And that portion was what you were to eat, and that would sustain you till the next time. Well, God is our portion. God is our satisfaction. He is all that we need. He is our full portion. When you have your full portion, you don't need anything else. And that's what Asaph is coming to realize. He didn't need all the things that the wicked people had. He had his full portion in God. And he says in verse 28, "The nearness of God is my good." So for a lot of other people, their good, what they think is their good, is their earthly possessions, their position, their power, whatever else that they pride themselves in. But for Asaph, it was the nearness of God. And he says, I have made the Lord God my refuge, that I may tell of all your works. And I would tell you that is definitely true about the nearness of God. If we have God near to us, and if we live in close communion with the Lord, with a heart devoted to Him, we have Him as our ultimate and highest goal in life. We have Him exalted into the high position to where we say we have no one in heaven but Him, and we desire nothing but Him. That is a truly satisfied life. People can fill their houses with possessions. They can fill their stomach with food. They can fill their bank account with money. But at the end of the day, it's just emptiness. Only those who are filled with the fullness of God have the fullness of life. They have the full satisfaction and can find full satisfaction in Him. And we need to realize that today. We need to not wait until our possessions are challenged or something happens that we think we might lose what we possess, or when we look at others and all that they have and we're tempted to be envious. Start today. Start today by making the Lord God your ultimate goal in life, and your relationship with Him the most important thing, the most valuable thing that you have. And to love Him above everything else, and to love Him above everyone else. And to focus on Him, to set our eyes on Him and on Him alone. Think about what type of life you would have if that were your true focus. No longer dependent upon your circumstances to be happy, no longer dependent upon your bank account to be happy, no longer dependent upon your possessions to be happy. Your happiness, your joy will be constant and consistent because it's dependent upon the constant and consistent God that you serve. And so if you draw your happiness from God, your happiness will always be there with you. Your joy will be complete and will fully satisfy the depths of your heart. So let's think about these things today. Let's start putting God back where He is. If our focus has been off a little bit, let's reshift things. Let's refocus, change our perspective, get back in the proper posture before God, and begin making Him the true and absolute goal of our lives. I thank you guys for listening in today. I love you guys. Hope you guys have a great day. God bless.